Shalom, I am Dr. Ann Davis with Bible Interact, and today I'd like to talk about what Scripture says about keeping or breaking the covenant and the consequences. We read, "You shall love the Lord your God, always keep His charge, His statutes, His ordinances, and His commandments." And we have several words I want to take a look at in the Hebrew. Charge, always keep His charge, is mishmeret. That's a guard who watches over and guards everything. Statutes are chukim, and those are laws. Ordinances is mishpat, which is the judgment of right and wrong. And then we keep His commandments. That's mitzvot, which means good deeds. Now, what happens if you do keep the commandments? The Lord will establish you as a holy people to Him if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in His ways. All the commandments that I am commanding you today, you shall be careful to do so that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land. Now, that word possess is the word for inherit. You're going to inherit the land, but you inherit the land by defeating the enemy so that you can take over what you've been given as an inheritance. All right, let's go on and see what happens if you do not keep the commandments. If you are not careful to observe all the words of this law which are written in this book, to fear this honored and awesome name. Now, fearing the Lord is not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of God. It's to be afraid of the coming judgment. Then the Lord will bring extraordinary plagues on you. If you're not walking in the ways of God, severe and lasting plagues, miserable and chronic sicknesses, those are just symbolic. It's going to be a tough life if you're not walking in the ways of God, and it's going to affect you and your family. If you do not obey me and do not carry out all these commandments and so break my covenant, then I will appoint over you a sudden terror, consumption and fever that will waste away the eyes and cause the soul to pine away. I will set my face against you, so those who hate you will rule over you. If we're not walking the ways of God, we're opening the door for those who will have power that's ungodly power. If we go on sinning willfully after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice of sins. Now, this is in the New Testament, but a terrifying expectation of judgment and the fury of a fire which will consume the adversaries. Now, the fire is symbolic. Please don't take it literally. It stands for burning up what is impure, leaving what is pure, like metal when you refine metal. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Now, this, I think, is really important because we're very tempted to hear things and follow those things. And I want to show you here a study that was done by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is known as MIT in Cambridge, outside of Boston. And they found that false news online travels faster, deeper, and more broadly than the truth. So we've got to be able to discern between what's true and what's not true, and don't just jump on what you want to believe. Falsehoods are 70% more likely to be retweeted than the truth. False news reached 1,500 people 6 times faster than the truth. So, what do? You shall keep my commandments and do them. In conclusion, God's covenant is filled with promises, but we must play our part to accept them by walking in God's ways. Leviticus 22:31 summarizes God's commandments, and we read those and looked at some of the Hebrew words. Scripture explains the benefits of keeping God's covenant. Scripture also explains in some detail what will happen if we fail to keep God's covenants. A common failure with consequences is allowing ourselves to be deceived through social media. And with that, I will wish you shalom.